The land that makes up England is ancient, with a long, rich history stretching back thousands of years, many of it good and worth remembering and celebrating. However, there are pieces of it that are dark and evil. Bloody battles, gruesome murders, and frenzied witch trials. It is hardly surprising that up and down the country, people report sightings of ghosts. Welcome back, Noctunians. Today, I invite you to turn off the lights, sit back, and enjoy my list of the top 5 most haunted places in England. The village of St. Osoph is home to one of the most haunted houses in England, known as the Cage. The building was said to have functioned as a medieval prison for witches, the most famous being Ursula Kemp, who was imprisoned there before being hung as a witch in 1582. Vanessa Mitchell purchased the house in 2004 and straight away experienced paranormal events, including doors slamming and hearing footsteps on stairs, and she even claims to have seen the spectre of a man entering the house.
Alison, there's loads and loads of stories from when I lived here and loads of experiences I had, but one that I always remember was I was sitting there on the sofa. It was broad daylight, it was summertime, and a figure of a man just walked along here through the beam staring at me. In real time this happened.
And you could see him?
I could see him so much, I could see the lines on his face.
Vanessa decided to sell the house in 2009. However, and perhaps unsurprisingly, it took Vanessa over a decade to sell the house. In addition, St. Osoph herself is said to haunt the village. St. Osoph was a nun who was said to have been beheaded by Danish invaders in 700 AD. It is claimed that she bent down, picked up her severed head and walked to the door of the nunnery, knocking 3 times before dropping dead. It is said that St. Osoph now repeats this extraordinary feat each year on the anniversary of her death. Pluckley Hall was constructed in the 17th century by Sir Henry Hobart, who died of his wounds following a duel in 1698. Sir Henry is now said to haunt the rooms of the hall. Sir Henry is just one of many ghosts said to haunt the hall and grounds. The site of Pluckley Hall was previously the site of a hall that belonged to Sir Thomas Boleyn, father to Anne Boleyn. Anne Boleyn was the second wife of Henry VIII and was later accused of treason and adultery. Anne Boleyn was beheaded on the 19th of May 1536. It is now said that Anne appears at Pluckley Hall each year on the anniversary of her death, seated in a phantom carriage pulled by 4 headless horses being spurred on by a headless coachman, all while Anne sits inside, her own severed head resting upon her lap. The carriage charges down the drive of Pluckley Hall before vanishing at the front entrance. It is then said that Anne Boleyn spends the night roaming the rooms and corridors of the hall. In addition, Anne's brother, Lord Rochford, is also said to appear on this night. His headless body is dragged around the surrounding countryside by 4 headless horses. Each year, vigils are held at Pluckley Hall on the anniversary of Anne's death, where onlookers wait for a chance to see the phantom carriage making its way down the drive. In the county of Lancashire, near the sleepy village of Newchurch, sits the lonely, brooding summit of Pendle Hill. The area has a dark and troubling history. The 17th century saw the locals swept by hysteria as 12 of their neighbours were accused of witchcraft and would be remembered in history as the Pendle Witches. The Pendle witch trials occurred in 1612 and are one of the most famous and well documented in English history. The trials centre around 2 families, each headed by a matriarch, one by Elizabeth Sullins, also known as Old Demdike, the other by Anne Whittle, known as Chattox. 6 members of these families, in addition to 6 other locals, were charged with the murder of 10 people by method of witchcraft. Of the 12 accused, 1 was found not guilty. Old Demdike died in prison awaiting trial, and the remaining 10 were found guilty and executed by hanging. It is now said that the ghosts of the Pendle Witches continue to gather at their former meeting spot on Pendle Hill. As a result, visitors each year climb to the top of Pendle Hill in the hope of catching a glimpse of old Demdike and Chattocks, meeting once again, and perhaps plotting their revenge. Number 2 is an entire village haunted by no less than 12 ghosts. Pluckley is regarded as the most haunted village in the UK. It held this title officially in the Guinness Book of World Records in 1989. The ghost of an old schoolmaster that hung himself and was found later by a group of his own school children has been reported on numerous occasions. Fright Corner is said to be the site where a highwayman had his final stand. Chased by lawmen to this location, he fought but was finally backed against an oak tree before being stabbed to death. It appears that he is now doomed to forever relive his final moment, as there have been several sightings of the highwayman reported in this location. 2 other ghosts that haunt the village tell a tragic love story between a monk and a mistress of a local lord. The monk and woman were said to have fallen madly in love, but the affair took a strain on the young woman and she was said to have taken her own life. The ghostly figure of the monk can be seen roaming around the trees at gravestones, mourning for his lost love. Along the lane at Rose Court, the spectre of the woman has also been sighted numerous times. It is somewhat tragically poetic that these 2 lovers, destined to never be together in life, seem to remain apart in death. The woods near Pluckley have been nicknamed the Screaming Woods. With the many tragic stories linked to the village, it is perhaps not surprising that the wood is littered with the screams of its former residents. Many a visitor have reported hearing distinct cries and screams from within the woods. Given the high number of sightings reported over the years and the sheer number of ghosts that haunt the village, I think it is only right that the village of Pluckley gets a high spot on this list. Taking the number 1 spot is Bali Rectory. Bali Rectory was built in 1862. One of the most famous ghosts to haunt Bali Rectory is the spirit of a nun. Reverend Henry Bull and his family were one of the first families to live in Bali Rectory and experienced many strange encounters, including visions of the nun. There was a particular spot on the grounds of Bali Rectory where the nun was often sighted. The members of the Bull family nicknamed this spot the Nun's Walk. Henry Bull even had a summer house constructed near this area, and he would spend long summer nights sitting outside watching and waiting for a glimpse of the nun. Upon Henry's death in 1892, the property was passed on to his son Harry. One day, Harry's daughters were playing in the garden when they saw the phantom nun roaming the grounds. The children raced towards the nun hoping to talk to her, but as they approached the nun, she simply disappeared. Other spirits were sighted by the family over the years, including a phantom stagecoach which would race down the driveway before vanishing just as it was about to hit the building. Harry Bull died in 1929 and the rectory was passed on to Reverend Eric Smith. Reverend Smith's wife was understandably uneasy about moving into the rectory given its reputation, and it would not take long for these fears to be realised. Mrs. Smith would report hearing the ringing of the servants' bells despite them being disconnected, in addition to hearing footsteps in areas of the house that were completely empty. The famous paranormal researcher Harry Price would take an interest in the case, visiting the rectory and conducting research. However, his presence seemed to ignite a burst of aggressive poltergeist activity. Price reported that objects such as stones and vases had been thrown at him by the poltergeist. The activity would disappear when Price was not there. Some have used this as evidence that Price was falsifying these claims. However, the other haunting activities persisted, and 2 years after moving in, the Smiths would leave Bali Rectory. Paranormal activity would continue for the next residents of the rectory, Reverend Foyster and his family. The sounds of bells ringing and windows breaking were among the activities reported. The poltergeist activity had returned and had become more violent and centred on the Reverend's wife, Mary Ann, throwing objects at her from across the room. In desperation, Reverend Foyster performed an exorcism on the house in an attempt to rid it of evil spirits. The activities ceased, for a while, before returning and forcing the Foyster family to move. No other family of the church would agree to move into the rectory. In 1937, Harry Price leased the property for 12 months and assembled a team of researchers and investigated the haunting. Amongst his numerous findings were temperature fluctuations in areas of the rectory, sightings of ghostly spectres and unexplained noises, in addition to objects being thrown around. A séance was conducted in the summer house and 2 spirits were reached. One claimed to be a French nun who was murdered and buried on the premises. The other spirit threatened to burn down the rectory to reveal the bones of a murder victim. In 1938, the rectory would gain its final resident, Captain Gregson. 11 months after the séance, an oil lamp was knocked over and the rectory burned to the ground. The site of Bali Rectory remained empty. However, claims of paranormal activity in the area still continue to this day. That was my list of the top 5 most haunted places in England. Did I miss any out? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, then please like and subscribe. You can follow Nups on Instagram and Twitter, and please contact us via email with any of your own paranormal experiences. This has been Ryan1304, and until next time, question everything.